this time, I'd like to call to order the regular meeting of the Lincoln Way Community High School District 210 Board of Education for Thursday, January 19th, 2023. Please rise for the pledge if you're able. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Roll call, please.
Mr. Janik.
Here.
Ms. Janice Doyle. Here. Mr. Kirking. Mr. Lacine.
Here.
Mr. Lucetti.
Here.
Mrs. Stokes. Here. Mr. Kostick.
Here. All right, first up we have our student council presidents. Who would like to go first?
I can go first.
All right, well, come on down.
Okay, hi, my name is Alexa Hadley, and I'm the student council president at Lincoln Way Central. After having such a successful first couple months of school, the Knights wanted to finish the semester strong. The week before finals, student council teamed up with PPS to host De-Stress before the test week, to spread a little positivity and cheer during those super exciting but also super stressful couple of weeks. Students had the opportunity to participate in mindfulness practice during lunch hours, especially on Wellness Wednesday, therapy dog sessions, Just Dance, and an extremely competitive hula hoop competition, with, of course, some cool Lincoln Way Central spiritware as prizes, and we all go crazy for any free night swag. We ended our semester serving delicious hot chocolate before finals started and finally relaxed on our well-earned and well-deserved break. Our winter sports have had a great start to their seasons. Our wrestling team just hosted the Illini Invite with over 24 schools competing and 6 Knights actually placing. Additionally, boys bowling and our Rhythm Knights will be competing in their sectional competitions this weekend, and girls bowling and cheer have conference championships as well, with the cheer competition actually being hosted at Central. Girls basketball is on a roll, currently 3-0 in conference play, and we play our Crosstown Classic against West Thursday, so today. So I hope we pick up that win. And our boys basketball just picked up a win against Sandburg and are now looking forward to celebrating our seniors on senior night. Also, our activities have picked up right where they left at the end of the semester. For instance, Noble Nights after school today, we're working on creating handmade blankets for our friends at the Cottages of New Lenox. I know many clubs are planning and participating in various community outreach, and of course, our incredibly talented actors and actresses are rehearsing for our spring musical, Catch Me If You Can. Coming up, we are planning our next big school event, introducing the Winter Night, a new dance and tradition we hope to continue for years to come. This year's theme is Winter Night at Cupid's House, and I'm really excited to see all the decorations we can order and all of the awesome spirit days we can have. Because of our incredible homecoming Olympics participation and success, we are now creating the Winter Olympics, which we will be hosting the week of Winter Night as well. I certainly hope that students get excited about what's to come at Lincoln Way Central, because I know I am. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Delia Hamoud, and I will be presenting on behalf of the Lincoln Way East as a Student Council President. After a very productive first semester and a relaxing winter break, East students are back at school and hard at work in the classroom. During the first 2 weeks of school, underclassmen have been focused on choosing their schedules for next year. To help students decide, the PPS department presented class options for next year, and teachers completed their course recommendations for their students. Once our current students finish packing their schedules, it'll be time for the incoming freshmen to choose. In order to help them decide, we will be hosting our Class of 2027 open house on Wednesday, February 15th. On this night, the incoming freshmen can meet with teachers, coaches, and they will be meeting with teachers, coaches, and sponsors to see what East has to offer. We are very excited to see all of our incoming Griffins. Speaking of the Class of 2027, NHS is working on writing letters to the incoming freshmen. The letters will serve to welcome our future Griffins, and they will be distributed to the junior high students soon. Currently, Student Council is finalizing its plans for the Under the Sea themed winter dance, Beyond the Blue. Student Council is brainstorming Spirit Week ideas, ordering decorations, and picking out snacks for the event. The dance will be on Saturday, February 11th from 7 to 10 p.m. in our gymnasium. Additionally, our winter sports teams are currently rolling through their seasons. All teams are preparing for the upcoming conference and sectionals. We look forward to seeing all the successes of our sports and teams and hope for some state qualifying teams as well. Lastly, we are so excited to host Mr. and Miss Griffin for the spring. This program will showcase senior boys and senior girls competing for the title of Mr. and Miss Griffin while also highlighting talent show acts along the way. The show will be held on March 25th. Thank you and have a wonderful evening.
Good evening. I am Lincoln West Student Council President Kaylee Dord. Looking back at this recently completed semester, West held and took part in quite a few activities, drives, and outstanding sporting events. Around Thanksgiving, the Student Council collected over 300 items and put together Thanksgiving dinner baskets for families in our community for this past holiday season. Following our food drive, the Student Council stayed busy as we planned our annual Polar Express, something we have not had since my freshman year, and it was an ultimate success. We had over 500 families show up and was a all-day event which brought many smiles and joys to see around Christmas time. It was great to see families come out, as we have not seen that many people in our school since before the pandemic. The English department then took part in a holiday sharing event where students brought in, wrapped, and then brought gifts to families that were not as fortunate as some of our students this holiday season. They were so grateful, and we even got a few letters back saying how grateful they were to have gifts to share with their families and their children this season. Students also took part in a de-stress before the test, which allowed students to participate in a variety of activities before school and during their advisory, which included yoga, making a nutritious breakfast, and hanging out with the support dogs. It does not end there. Student Council also wanted to continue the school spirit and the holiday cheer by allowing students to engage in before winter break spirit week. Overall, last semester was an enormous success. To start this semester, the Student Council has been planning the winter dance and a variety of other activities and drives. Alongside this, our boys bowling team won regionals and now are off to sectionals. We have a lot more to come as the spring seasons are just kicking off their preseason and are getting at a jump start getting ready for this successful spring season that we are about to have. I am excited to see what the rest of the semester has to hold and all the excitement and opportunities that will come along with it. Thank you.
Thank you, ladies. Appreciate it. Moving on, we have no one signed up for public comment, so curriculum instruction assessment update.
Good evening. I'm here tonight to give you a brief update on the additions to the Accelerated Placement Act, which went into effect at the start of this school year. Essentially, the Accelerated Placement Act, which has been in place and we have had board policy that aligns to that, hasn't really applied too much to us at the high school level. Acceleration has typically applied to the feeder schools and grade schools where you see students accelerated, bumped up a grade, or skipping a grade. While we did have a policy in place, the new updates are requiring more of us. What is new is a new clause called automatic enrollment. What ISBE is requiring is for us, they have since changed the date to be the start of the 24-25 school year. Any student who meets or exceeds state standards is to be automatically enrolled in the next most rigorous level of coursework. So what that means is a student who is in our college prep course for any particular subject, and this is by subject, would then the following school year be enrolled in the honors course of that particular subject. So it took a lot. Dr. Murphy and I looked at a lot of the numbers as we were going through. We were required to post a plan on the website as of November 1st, and we did that, and it is up there. A copy, I believe, was included in your board packet. These are some of the highlights. What we have decided to do, the state says that you're supposed to use the state tests that are given in the spring. However, districts also have an option if they pay for and administer their own nationally standardized test, you can use those scores. For us, that made the most sense. As you heard one of the student council presidents saying, our students are right now undergoing course registration for next school year. So we need to have those scores in place. So the SAT suite of assessments that we give in the fall are going to be the tests that we use. Further in that plan, you will see what actual benchmarks we chose, what particular portions of the PSAT and the SAT we will be using as we move forward. And you can see what the actual score ranges are. The way that compares to our particular classes throughout their years, I have also had on here for you in a color-coded aligned version. with the update by the board, by ISBE, in late October, where they said that we can implement this not next school year, but the year after, we made the decision that we are going to start this with our incoming class of 2027. So we will be starting this process of automatic enrollment into courses as the 8th graders come to our open houses on February 15th. Any questions?
There will be fewer students taking reading as a result of this. We are going to discuss with parents, both at open house, and we've put a video together that we'll be sending out tomorrow to think about the 4-year plan and then think about individually about your student. We have had several freshman parents this year whose children took 0 hours say, boy, it's been a lot. My child is in honors classes all day, 0 hour, right to band, right to sports, and it's been a lot. So we're encouraging those parents to take a look at that. With many students no longer having to take reading, that will open up a section in their day, and maybe the 0 hour is not a necessity. We will, summer school, we do not have honors classes, we do not have AP in summer school. And so that limits some of those courses that students can take, but that's something we'll continue to work on with them. But the students who come at the beginning of November will be automatically placed. We'll still have the waiver process that many of you parents are familiar with, but we'll see how this works. I'm excited for the change. This will move more students up, coming in right off the start. And so that was a goal we had, was to continue to push those students, and I think that will accomplish this goal. Anything to add, Renee? Does anybody have any questions?
I was just going to ask, are we anticipating to have to add significant more sections of honors classes over what we have now, based on these new standards?
Dr. Murphy ran the preliminary numbers for me, and he was able to show me, it's the same number of sections. It's simply more honors and less college prep. So it's the same number of students.
That's what I meant,
Yeah.
but I mean, there's going to be more honors classes, I guess would be my question.
Yes.
As a result of this.
More sections.
Yes. One interesting phenomenon is we've had over the years, many incoming students, parents waive them into the honors world history and geography, which is also an AP class. With these new scores, it's pretty much going to take all of that number that we had waiving in is now going to be automatically enrolled, with the exception of a few. And so we see a few areas where that is happening. Math, we were looking at lowering that score to bump the kids up to honors algebra 1 as well. So
when you said that there were less now that will be in reading, how does that impact, I guess, those teachers that teach that? And was there a problem with the number that we had in the reading classes?
No. So what that will do is that will move a couple of those teachers back into social science and a teacher back into English, so that there will be no change. There'll be no reduction in the staff as a result of this. And what we are seeing is those students that are meeting these standards are already meeting those reading standards. So it's not necessary that they take that class. So it does open up an elective possibility for those students. Good question. Chris?
I was just going to ask, so you're just starting this for the incoming freshmen next year? So how is it going to be rolled out and communicated to like the parents of existing students?
Of the next year?
Of the next year.
So what we're going to do as we go through the process this year, Dr. Murphy is going to kind of do a what if we were going on the rollout, just to see what the impact will be. But most of that conversation with the existing students will take place in the fall, prior to their registration in January, February. So next year for the juniors and seniors, there'll be some that are going to be bumped up, but most of those conversations will take place in the fall.
Would it benefit them to be bumped up before?
Prior?
Yeah. Is it hard to be a senior now start to take honors English as opposed to brain?
So Math and English are our two concerns, Chris. So we were going to look at this year, how many of those geometry students would go right to Honors Algebra 2 pre-calc, because that was our one concern. English, we think they'll be okay. It's just more rigor, but math was our area of concern. So we were going to see how many students that would actually impact, because correct me if I'm wrong, we don't have there's not a lot of students that wave up from geometry to honors once they hit their math track. They're typically in it. So that is an area of concern. It's a good question.
But in that scenario you just said where they bump up, isn't this automatic? So if they are doing well in
Would be
geometry, they
automatic.
automatically go up?
It would be automatic, but parents will have the option to wave back down.
Okay, that was my follow-up.
We have updated all of our forms for the incoming freshmen. This year, we did not roll that out with the current students. Next year, that will be something we need to look at to let them know that that's an option as well.
Good questions.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Renee.
Moving on to the consent agenda, which includes the approval of the regular meeting minutes of December 15th, approval of the closed meeting minutes of December 15th, and approval of the payrolls of December 20th, 22 through January 5th, 2023, and personnel reports. Would anyone like anything pulled from the consent agenda for discussion? If not, I'd entertain a motion to accept the consent agenda as presented.
So moved?
I have a motion and a second. Linda, if you'd open the vote, please.
The vote is open. The vote is unanimous. The motion passes.
Thank you. Moving on to the action items. First up, presentation of invoices for December 16th through, December 16th of 22 through January 19th, 2023.
Motion to approve the invoices in the amount of $3,586,874.38 dated January 19th, 2023.
Thank you. I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second?
Any discussion, questions?
Question on the water bill, and we could talk about it now. Our building and grounds report seems to be high again.
Yes, Chuck can jump in. We've done a couple different things. New Lenox has changed the meters at West and Central, to be sure. We did find a leak in a pipe at Central in the north building, and that's been corrected. We have gone through 90% of the plumbing at West, because that is primarily overhead. We still have 10% to go that's in the ground. Is the pool good to go, Chuck? I know at West that was one of the concerns.
Pool does have 2 lines underground that we're looking at. We've isolated parts of the building for flow and process of elimination, but we're still in that process of eliminating potential leaks underground. We did have the village assisted in a new meter and also a reader, so that we get up-to-date readings instead of delayed. We're monitoring that in both West and Central as we speak to see if there's a point of time during the day or night that there's a huge increase. Central and West both had some minor leaks throughout the building, and where we did find some valves that were cracked open that were draining. Those have all been taken care of. So the remaining portion of the investigation is the underground.
Oh, at West. Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you.
If there are no further questions, I have a motion and a second. Linda, if you'd open the vote, please.
The vote is open. vote is unanimous. The motion passes.
Thank you. Moving on to the treasurer's report for December of 2022.
For the month ending December 31, revenues and expenses across the district totaled $3.8 million and $28.9 million respectively, and that higher expense total was anticipated due to bond payments that were due by January 1st. So we made those a couple days early given the way the calendar fell. Total cash balance across all funds at the end of the month was $41.3 million. Year-to-date budget report, about 47% and 50% of revenues and expenses respectively have been realized, and in comparison, this point last year was 47 and 48. YTD data, just to clarify, as I go through these reports each month, trending on course is within a couple of percent. Revenues typically vary less, whereas expenses, you can have large capital or debt payments that might impact those. One thing I'd like to note is at the December board meeting, I noted the continuing trend of higher medical claims. As you know, we increased our budget pretty substantially in this area after last fiscal year and the early part of the calendar year for 22. But now we have 6 complete months of claim data to look at for this fiscal year. Through December 31st, Blue Cross Blue Shield bills have exceeded our budget projections by about $375,000. So now what we will do in the business office is, I think it's rather than waiting until the end of the fiscal year like we did last year, I think a mid-year true-up and expensing that liability is going to give us the truest picture of where we stand on a budget YTD standpoint. So expensing the liabilities, and with that deficit considered, we would be at 51.4% of the operating benefits budget, which makes sense. I'm saying there's a small deficit, and we're 50% of the way through the fiscal year. That adjustment will then be reflected in next month's treasurer's report. Employee premiums were increased in January, and then we did make a decision to lower the individual stop loss for calendar year 2023 to stabilize some of the risk of individual claimants trending high. We'll continue monitoring those medical trends closely as I want to make sure that we make some responsible budget decisions for FY 2024 in this area as well. For investments, the blended rate of return through December 31st is 3.6%. We continue working with PMA. Obviously, right now, our cash reserves are a little bit lower until we get some additional revenues later in the spring. Cash flow, we had $1.3 million positive cash variance in December. Tax revenues, we had gotten them a little bit earlier, as talked about last month, so lower in that area for December. O&M expenses do remain high compared to historical trends, but those should slow down some in the coming months. Overall, net cash balance is on par with this point last year. And then looking ahead, I had in the initial cash flow projections for this fiscal year when you guys adopted the budget that we may need and may wish to have seek approval from you for interfund loans in April-May timeline. And so I'll be watching those and updating you in February, and if they're needed in March, April, May, I'll bring a resolution for that. Good. That's all I have.
Thank you. Any questions on the treasurer's report?
On the financials, where did those the medical claims show up? Is that under employee benefits?
Yes.
So we basically had a flat budget for that from 22 to 23. Right?
Well, so that's all benefits there. And so the flat, what you're comparing to is actual. So as the board amended the budget in June, you amended it to make a pretty substantial increase because the claims were so high through FY22, especially the first half of calendar year 22. We said, okay, this is the highest we've ever seen. Excuse me, some other benefits areas came in under budget. I think they were more conservative than were necessary. And so when you kind of weigh that out, it's a relative flat budget because I think it was maybe $865,000, $870,000 a month on average is where we were last fiscal year for medical claims. It's the highest it's ever been. So we budgeted 900,000 a month this year, and that has shown to be, at least so far this fiscal year, trending a bit behind still, shockingly enough. So we are hoping with that individual stop loss coming down, and then by expensing this, we'll be able to track it here in the spring. And as we go, obviously in the coming months, we'll be talking budget for FY24, and I want to make sure we account accordingly.
Because that's the one I was going to ask about, the employee benefits being 400, but the second one, and not to answer now, but maybe just because we're looking at half a year.
Sure.
And maybe put in for the next report, but I was looking at purchase services where we budgeted for an increase of about 7.5%, and if you look at December to December, we're at about 15% increase.
Is this for all funds or operating?
This is, I'm looking at all funds.
All funds?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, let me do a little digging there and get you some more detail on purchase services. I can talk about that next month. Mm-hmm.
In talking to Blue Cross, is some of this, like the overages, is this like a delay from the procedures that didn't get done for that 18 months that people are finally catching up so that we should ride that back down and be back to normal? Or is it, we're just off?
I wish I had a great answer for you. We've worked with Stum Insurance, who's our broker. We've worked with Blue Cross. For a while, we were trying to pinpoint, what percentage of this is people that had waited. I think we're past that point enough now, and some of it is settled. I think it's really difficult to say. Right now, we just have some health things going on, and
It's the amount of large claims. I mean,
Okay.
it's the amount of large claims. It's the amount of large individual claims. We had several years of very good luck and good health,
Right.
and the last two have been difficult. And so that's why the trend analysis, they try and use a 3-year aggregate to determine rates. And we had 3 really good years, and now we're in year 2 of a difficult year. And hopefully it turns, and, for the sake of the individuals right now. But it's the large individual claims right now that are driving some of the cost.
Any other questions regarding the treasurer's report? If not, I'd entertain a motion to accept the treasurer's report as presented. I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Linda, if you'd open the vote, please.
The vote is open. The vote is unanimous. The motion passes.
Thank you. Moving on to student activities for December 2022.
Included in your backup materials is the activity report for December. Total student activity fund balance is $2,257,430, with revenues of $309,077 and expenditures of $295,022. We do have 2 accounts that are in the red: Boys Bowling Central, Girls Tennis West, both under $100, and those will be taken care of here by the end of January. Boys bowling is already positive. Tennis will be by the end of January.
Fantastic. Any questions regarding student activities? If not, I entertain a motion to accept the student activities report for December 2022 as presented.
So moved. Second.
I have a motion and a second. Linda, if you would open the vote, please.
The vote is open. The vote is unanimous. The motion passes.
Thank you. Moving on to the memorandum of understanding between Silver Cross Hospital and Lincoln Way Community High School, District 210.
Included in your backup materials is a proposal from Silver Cross to utilize Lincoln Way West as a reunification center in the case of an emergency, whether it be a natural disaster or the event of a disaster. Lincoln Way West is large enough that if the hospital, for whatever reason, were overrun, or if they were not able to provide services as the hospital They would come to Lincoln Way West, utilize our space as we have bathrooms, showers, intercoms. We have enough to facilitate that. So they had asked that we enter into this MOU, this agreement, in the case that there were ever a natural disaster, whether it be tornado or what have you. So it'd be my recommendation to accept this memorandum as presented, and then it would remain in place unless one of the parties were to decide to break that.
So it's a pretty bare bones.
It is.
So it doesn't really, but so is my understanding it's like something like that, there's gonna be no one in classes, but this isn't if there's a disaster at Silver Cross and we have school, this isn't.
No, this does not. This
isn't like tornado.
This is if it's larger than, yes.
Right,
Larger
got
than. So this is an extreme emergency case. It's not, they lose power or something happens there, they're gonna move us. It's if it's in the event of a disaster.
And according to this, it looks like you have to contact Ted, or we just have to send someone to open the doors. We're not staffing or.
We're not staffing.
Got it.
No, Ted's got it. He's all over it.
Ted's on call 24/7 now?
It's no different than a baseball game. They need the lights. So, yeah. I mean, this is very bare bones. We do, in the past, we've had different agreements with Red Cross and those types of things, and we don't have anything in place currently, but this would be something that would preclude any other usage in the event of an emergency.
Any other questions regarding this memorandum of understanding? If not, I'd entertain a motion to accept the memorandum of understanding between Silver Cross Hospital and Lincoln Way Community High School District 210 as presented.
So moved.
I have a motion and a second. Linda, if you'd open the vote, please.
The vote is open.
What? Somebody put an exclamation point on the teleprompter. There you go.
The vote is unanimous. The motion passes.
Thank you. Moving on to the second reading of the 23-24 school calendar.
So enclosed in your backup materials is a draft proposal of the school calendar for the 23-24 school year. I've shared this with all the feeder districts. We will align all of our breaks. The only difference, Frankfurt will be starting quite a bit later next summer due to construction. In fact, I don't think until September 5th maybe. And so I've worked with the feeders, met with them. This kind of works for us. If there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Can we laminate this one yet?
We have not laminated this. We're gonna wait and get the vote, and then we'll go.
But this will laminate it then.
I'll make a motion
To accept
to approve the calendar, sorry,
as presented?
as presented.
Thank you, Aaron.
A second.
I was waiting for if there was any more discussion.
No.
There was a couple trigger fingers. I thought somebody was reaching to ask a question, so I waited. All right. Apparently, there are no more questions, Linda, so if you would please open the vote.
The vote is open. The vote is unanimous. The motion passes.
Fantastic. Get out that lamination machine.
Got it.
All right, moving on, informational items. Report of the Lincoln Way Special Education District 843 Governing Board meeting held November 22nd. Deidre.
I have nothing to add. I had a scheduling conflict, but I have spoke with Sarah Rexroad, but nothing to add that's in the report so far.
Thank you. FOIA requests.
None to report.
Even better. Building and grounds.
Building and grounds, all of the totals are right. Some of the year-over percentages, we've got to recalculate a formula, but all the dollar amounts are right, and we'll take a look at that and repost that by the end of the day tomorrow.
Thank you. Community relations.
Include up in your backup materials for your review.
Asset of the month.
Asset of the month for February, cultural competence, social awareness. Kids know and are comfortable with people of different cultural, racial, and or ethnic backgrounds. At home, teach your children about their heritage, encourage them to feel proud of their cultural, ethnic, and racial identity without feeling superior. At school, model acceptance and appreciation of differences, make these stated values in your school. And in the community, celebrate many types of cultural events. That's the asset of the month for February.
Thank you. District 210 Advisory. Beth?
We did not meet in December. We will meet Monday, and we will begin a review of the student handbook.
Thank you. First reading, elementary transportation intergovernmental agreement.
Mike can jump in here, but we've made some minor changes to the elementary transportation intergovernmental agreements. We're going to try and keep this thing going, but we think it's prudent to change the 3 to 5 year window to 1 year agreements. We need to change some of the language in there to go from, will be driven by a Lincoln Way District 210 employee, just remove that altogether. In the case that we do have to subcontract out, in our previous IGAs, it stated buses will be driven by a Lincoln Way employee. We might not be able to always do that. And so those are two of the things we've changed. Mike, go ahead and talk a little bit what it means for leasing and anything I missed there.
Sure. So the two districts that are up at the end of this year are Manhattan 114 and Union 81. Scott, you did great in terms of this memo. For the next item in terms of bus leases, we've tried to align 5-year bus leases with the 5-year IGAs. As discussed last year at this time, the vehicle market is not settled, and we're talking about significant price increases, whether they're used buses or new buses or whatever, to enter into new leases and get different vehicles on site. So just like last year, I'm recommending extending the buses that we have. The pricing is obviously better for a 2-year extension versus 1, and so that's going to be the recommendation that I bring next month. That's the second item here about bus leases, but what that does is that gives us also the flexibility, to Scott's point about the IGAs. Now we're not locked into, we've got buses leased for 5 years and no IGA or vice versa. So that keeps flexibility. So that's all I got.
And we'll bring this back next month. But go ahead.
Yeah,
please.
no, very well written, and I understand. And I agree with the bus, the 2-year extension. And obviously with the first roll, it won't make a big difference, but from an asset liability mismatch, we always, we work this, way back when you have the buses rolling off, but now you're going to have 3 districts coming due in 1 year. Let's say they're not happy with the service, and then we're going to do a 2-year lease. So why wouldn't you keep, or would some of them want to do like a 2-year? And again, what I think we would need to see here is, I think you need, because again, I don't know all this, or I don't recall it, but we need, the number of buses that each district needs and what's rolling off each year. And then does it make it difficult from the standpoint of, this is the market now and we want to do these 2 years, but at some point you're not going to want to use the, extend the leases. You're going to want to go out and get 5-year lease. Yeah. And then are the districts going to agree to do that? Because I don't think it should all be on link, like this, we're like almost running a busing service, right?
Well, we are.
Yeah, we I was trying to be. Yeah. We're running a busing business, and I just think the most important thing is you can never have an asset liability mismatch.
Yeah.
So that's my concern with the 1-year term here.
And I that's a very good point. The 1 year with just Union's 2 buses, and then Manhattan is, what do we got, Mike? 12? Is he back there? 12 buses for Manhattan? Is what I'm getting good at that. I'm getting good. So that won't be significant. It will be the next round with the New Lenox and Frankfurts that we're going to have to stagger. So we'll look year by year, but it made sense in this first year at least to go a year. But as we get to New Lenox, Frankfurt, and Summit Hill, where there are larger, I think we have 18 in Frankfurt. Summit Hill, I don't remember because we share with East. But those will be the ones that we have to have those discussions to match up, to your point. But that's a very good point. We don't want to be left hanging with 18 extra buses and not have anybody use them. Yep.
So I think to that point, it sounds like we're fine because they don't use a lot of buses. But I think when we bring this back
line it
next
up.
week, have that
Have that chart.
information, yes.
Yep, we can do that. Yep, thank you.
Thank you. I guess this kind of rolled in already a little bit, but the school bus lease agreement, first reading?
Yeah, same type of concept, and we can bring it back for more discussion next month. Mhm.
Thank you. Legislative report.
Nothing at this point,
Superintendent's report.
nothing, no other district business either.
COVID mitigation plan.
No changes,
That's great news as
Yes.
always. Any correspondence?
none to report.
Well, thank you. That concludes our informational items. With that, I'd entertain a motion to go into closed session to discuss the appointment, employment, compensation, discipline, performance, or dismissal of employees, and to establish the sale or lease price of real estate. If I could get a motion.
So moved?
Motion, I have a second? Second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
It's unanimous. The ayes have it. Any action after closed? No action. There will be no action after closed session this evening, ladies and gentlemen.